A novel of classic city corruption. Jaconia Monet Walton, Nothing Will Work Unless You Do. Maya Angelou dedication. This book is dedicated to my loving great-grandma Polly Alexander and to those who picked up this book. Thank you for your support. Chapter 7, When the Feds Arrived. The first sign was not a press conference. It was a parking space too unmarked. SUVs slid quietly into reserved spots behind the courthouse. Just after sunrise, not county plates, not state fleet. Federal by mid-morning confirmation rippled through legal circles. The Federal Bureau of Investigation had formally opened a parallel inquiry coordinating with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Georgia. The case was no longer only about Georgia's statutes. It was about federal exposure, and federal exposure carried different math. Agent Reyes received the call directly. We're reviewing potential federal program fraud. The voice on the secure line said some of the consulting funds intersect with HUD-backed development allocations, housing federal dollars, interstate banking transfers that change district. If public funds tied to federal housing grants had been misapplied or laundered through consulting contracts, the charges could extend beyond conspiracy and obstruction. They could include wire fraud, honest services, fraud, federal program theft, potential recall predicates. Reyes closed her office door after the call. The investigation had just crossed state lines by afternoon. A quiet meeting was held inside a federal building in Macon. United States Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Georgia officials reviewed summaries of the Fleece recordings, Whitaker's proffer financial routing of infrastructure, consulting payments. Community land trust funding, tied to HUD oversight. A federal prosecutor leaned back in her chair. This isn't small-town favoritism. She said this is a coordinated enterprise scheme affecting federally assisted housing. One word, Lingard Enterprise. Neon's attorney delivered the news without ceremony. The FBI has entered. Neon stared at him. On what grounds? Federal funds, possible honest services fraud? Neon understood state politics. He understood county. He understood relationships. He did not understand federal sentencing guidelines. Can they supersede? Neon asked quietly. Yes, and if they do? You're no longer negotiating local legacy, the attorney replied. You're negotiating years. Neon sat back slowly. The state could embarrass him. The feds could bury him. Harold Whitaker's cooperation now carried national relevance. Federal prosecutors requested access to his financial disclosures. He had kept records meticulous, almost paranoid. Emails referencing federal alignment. Wire transfers routed through Atlanta intermediaries. A spreadsheet labeled simply, Stability Allocations. Harold had always believed documentation was protection. He had been right, just not in the way he originally intended. In Walton, Oconee, Madison, and Jackson counties, panic sharpened. State charges could be weathered. Federal charges were different. They meant grand juries in federal court, search warrants executed at dawn, asset seizures, indictments that could include forfeiture. One local developer reportedly canceled a family vacation and retained a white-collar defense firm out of Atlanta by nightfall. The old code, we protect our own, had never contemplated Washington. Johnny Hobbs learned about federal involvement from a former colleague who now practiced law in Atlanta. They're looking at wire transfers, the friend said. If you sign anything tied to federal allocations, you need counsel immediately. Johnny felt the walls closing in. He had rationalized participation as local politics. Now it carried federal implications. He thought of the oath he would soon take again, not before voters but under federal scrutiny. Silence, once safe now, looked reckless. Philip read the headline that evening. FBI joins